Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Saturday, February 9th, 2019, and this is the first video that I'm making in a while. I will start doing daily uploads. I have a brand new computer. Well, not brand new, but I guess a new computer that I will be using, and it does have everything that I need it to, so that's pretty great. I have my microphone plugged in, as you can tell, and today we're going to be looking at a 2020 electoral map between no one and Donald Trump, just based off his approval ratings in all 50 states. So recently numbers came out from the Morning Consult from the month of January, and the reason why I'm doing it is not because the State of the Union just happened, but because 2 years ago the first month tracking polls were taken for Donald Trump in all 50 states by Morning Consult. That date, of course, all the way back to 2017 when he first entered office. Those 10 days, how the country approved of him, and only 8 states did disapprove of him. Now we're looking at more than 8 states, to put it very briefly. And looking at our ever-changing electoral map, it doesn't look too good for the president. Me, knowing the data ahead of time before you guys do, it does not look good at all. Yes, his approval rating has gone up after the State of the Union, but not by much. It has gone up. I'll give him that. But again, when you're under 45, under 44, under 43, it's not a good look when you're going into an election after you just recently lose in the midterm elections. And I get it. Obama lost heavily back in 2010. But he also maintained his ability to be approved of in a number of these states. 45% around midterm season. Okay, Donald Trump was at 42. 43, and those little percentages matter when specific states, like the 3 Rust Belt states that we always turn to, he won in by less than 1%. That 2 to 3% could make all the difference for his reelection. But this is not a prediction video. We are just doing the data. And again, if you are not currently approved of by the president, if the how do I say this? If the state itself does not approve of you too heavily, then obviously you're not going to have those states. If my voice cuts out a little bit, it's because I was at a swim meet for 7 hours. And if you just hear my voice, it'll be, it might cut out sometimes just because I have sort of lost my voice. It's just certain, I guess, times where it just randomly decides to cut out. This is going to annoy me, but I have to click preset candidates, classic, and there we go. So I hope this goes away. It's probably not going to go away. But looking at the electoral map, we currently have 0 electoral votes, obviously, for all the candidates. Not really all the candidates. It's just going to be Donald Trump, and I guess you could just say, obviously, the disapprove will be Democrat, just no Democrat in specific. But for right now, looking at this map, there are a lot of areas where Donald Trump really needs to hold on to if he wants to win in 2020. Looking at the Rust Belt, very important. Looking at the South, very important. Looking at the Sun Belt, very important. The Northeast, very important. And the Democratic Party has a pretty good hold on a number of these states. They didn't lose in a landslide back in 2016, and chances are they're going to probably win in 2020 if they nominate one of those top candidates. And there are a lot running. People like Elizabeth Warren probably are not going to have as good of a shot as someone like Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders, but a lot of these candidates definitely do have the possibility of winning. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at a couple of the states that do approve of the president. It's going to be very interesting. The margins are very important as well. If a state only disapproves of the president by 2 to 3%, he obviously can recover. If it's all the way out past 10% or even past 6, 7%, it's probably not coming back by 2020 unless something drastically changes. And considering that 76% of Americans approved of the State of the Union, depending on how this video turns out next month, when I actually do make one because of the State of the Union, then that'll be pretty interesting. But let's go ahead and start in some of the states that do approve of the president pretty heavily. State of Alabama is positive 20. Mississippi is 13. So in fact, I'm going to be using the same scale that I used before. 0.1 to 5% is lean. Likely is 6. I guess 5.1, whatever, to 15%. And anything above 15 is safe. So right now, Alabama goes actually in the safe column, but Mississippi does not. It's only positive 13, and there is a chance that it actually does go into the likely column in the 2020 election, which is pretty interesting. For the state of Arkansas and Louisiana, Arkansas goes in the likely column, but Louisiana stays in the safe column. So he's doing pretty well in the South, not that he needs to worry about it whatsoever. South Carolina is pretty interesting. It's in single digits. It's in the, likely column, but he's obviously not going to lose there in 2020 unless something drastically changes. Going over to Tennessee and Kentucky, those states are both likely states, but West Virginia is a safe state with positive 24. So this looks pretty general. We always start off with an electoral map leading into all of my election nights, and it looks about right. I mean, if you fill in all the Democratic states, it looks around like 8 p.m. poll closings leading into a little bit of 9 p.m., 8:30 here, forgetting Indiana. But map looks very familiar to what you might expect. Going over to right now to the state of Oklahoma, Donald Trump right now has a likely margin here, going up into the I guess you could say heart, not really heart of the country. I guess just a central area. Wyoming is plus 31. Biggest state to approve, not biggest state, biggest approval rating of the president is in the state of Wyoming, which is pretty interesting. Idaho's right on edge. It's not more than 15%. It's actually exactly 15%. So that does go into the likely column for the president. There are some other states that do approve of the president, just they are narrowed. But North Dakota right now is plus 4. South Dakota is plus 6. So North Dakota goes in the lean column. South Dakota is a likely state. But let's talk about the states that are safe for the Democrats. You already know which ones. Washington, Oregon, California. Those ones are definitely safe for the Democratic Party. No doubt about it. Going over into the, I guess, Northeast, you can classify Illinois. Illinois is not the Northeast, but it was there on the way. New York, New Jersey, Maryland, those states right now are safe. Delaware counts as a likely state. It's only disapproved by 15, which is pretty interesting. Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, and not Maine. Maine goes in the likely column. New Hampshire, safe, which is very interesting. We'll talk about that in just a second. Of course, the District of Columbia is safe for the Democratic Party. New Hampshire is negative 18. This is a swing state. Negative 18. That shocks me. The fact that Delaware approves more of the president than New Hampshire. But Clinton won in New Hampshire and won in a blowout in Delaware. Wow? Question mark. Looking at that data, that's very surprising. Again, it could just be a wrong poll. Let's go back and look at November of 2018, negative 12 in New Hampshire. Let's go back to a year ago, January of 18, negative 10 in New Hampshire. January of 2017, plus 1 in New Hampshire. So it was never really good for the president. Just he's lost about 17 in that state itself, which is very, very interesting, leading into a very contested election. That state probably won't be targeted as much as other states because of his approval rating there. Looking over into other states that are pretty heavily against the president, Minnesota is negative 19. Based off that, the president should have no chance there. Right now in Wisconsin, negative 16. That one goes in the safe column. Michigan's negative 15, so it just narrowly goes in the likely column. Pennsylvania's negative 10. In fact, when I did make this video exactly 1 month ago, Pennsylvania was only negative 6. Wisconsin and Michigan were both negative 12. Minnesota was negative 14. It wasn't this bad for the president. Some things did change, and some things definitely narrowed down. Looking at December of 2018, South Dakota approved the president by 15. It's down to 6. North Dakota plus 9. Down to 4. Nebraska plus 7 is now down to 0. Okay, there's no net approval rating, which is why I'm not characterizing it, because you really can't. Looking at some surrounding states, I'm not going to reveal too much just yet, but it's very, very drastic, the change between the two, and could be because of the shutdown. It is because of the shutdown. Looking at some other states, another state that's not hugely, I guess you could say, big against the president, Iowa, negative 14. In fact, a new poll came out of Iowa discussing Democratic candidates for 2020. The only Democrat to beat Trump in Iowa, Joe Biden, plus 2. The rest of them, Trump plus 1, Trump plus 9, and some of them where Howard Schultz was thrown in with Elizabeth Warren. Schultz got 11% of the vote. That's surprising. Looking at the rest of the Democrats, that may not be the best selling point, that you're losing to Trump in Iowa. And I get it, Iowa's a Republican state at this point, but you're still losing regardless. Indiana right now is plus 4 for the president, not the worst thing for him. He's probably going to win that regardless of how he's approved, just based off the state's voting history. Looking at the state of Kansas, it's only positive 1, which means it narrowly goes into the lean column. Alaska is narrowly positive 1. Okay, if you look at a couple of other states, not looking too good either. Montana is also positive 1. That one goes to the Republican Party narrowly, and that's something to worry about. The fact that he's losing his big base, especially amongst areas like the South or in areas where you expect him to do well based off how he appealed back in 2016, he's not. And that's insane. Looking over Hawaii, negative 29. There's no way Donald Trump has a shot there. And that pretty much wraps up all the big states. Actually, no, we just missed two. Colorado and New Mexico are both -18 against the president. That's big. Number one, because those states were closer in 2016. Colorado was in play. New Mexico was not really, but still closer. -18, not a good sign. The Democratic Party is already at 266 with safe and likely states. Okay, if you subtract those 49 electoral votes that are likely, 217 of them are going to be safe. Donald Trump only has 25 in the safe column, 54 in the likely, and 26 in the lean column, putting him at a total of 105. Right now, the Democrats have 266, and we haven't even gone into the lean margin. They already have, 232 minus 217. That gives them 15 away from what Hillary Clinton got in 2016 based off the safe margin alone. Minnesota, Wisconsin, safe. A Trump state and a state Clinton won by 1%. Okay, the fact that Delaware approves more of the president than Wisconsin and Minnesota, and Michigan actually on bar with Michigan, that's surprising. Delaware approves more of the president than Colorado and New Mexico, when these are stereotype swing states. It's not spelling out good news for the president, and I get it, the State of the Union just happened, but also the Republican Party still needs to worry. This is not going to be uphill from there, especially if it continues at this rate, because it'll probably be still a little bump. But if you even go back to a year ago today, Donald Trump was not doing too good, and the Democratic Party did very well during the midterms. Right now, if you compare it back to 2018 January, he was approved of more in certain states. Colorado, New Mexico actually disapproved more of the president. But in some of these areas, North Dakota, South Dakota, big for the president. Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, big for the president. Not so much now. The South, very big for the president. Alabama, +29. And it's just very surprising looking at these results. But right now, we'll go ahead and start by looking into another state that doesn't necessarily approve the president and didn't vote for him either. Virginia is -10, goes into the likely column for the Democratic Party. Looking straight down over to Florida. Right now, we'll actually come back to that one because it's not in the likely column. Nevada is -13. Again, not a good sign for the president, but enough about that. Two states that are also in the likely column that may be surprising, Utah and Arizona. Now, just 2 months ago, Utah approved the president by 5. Arizona disapproved by 2. December of 2018, Utah approved by 3, and Arizona disapproved by 7. Now, Arizona still disapproves by 7, but Utah disapproves by -6. What happened? I don't know. This is just the data that we're getting now. Going over to Texas, that one narrowly goes to the Democrats by 1%. They disapproved the president by 1%. Over in Florida, not too good either. That one's -4%. If you actually go back to November of 2018, when the Republican Party won in the governorship and the Senate election by less than 1%, +2 for the president. It's now -4 for the president in that state. That's pretty crazy, because if they were at +2 and the Republican Party narrowly won there, -4 is not going to be any better. In fact, it's going to be worse. Going over to Georgia, that one is -4, which means -2, which means it goes into the lean column. North Carolina is also -4, which goes into the lean column. Ohio goes into the likely column because it is -6. And then Missouri, which surprised me. I mean, that one surprised me. It is -2 right now. In fact, if you go back to Missouri just 2 months ago, +10. So I don't know what changed, but now it's at -2. I don't think there's actually a time where Missouri disapproved of the president up until now. Yeah, there was not a single time until now when it disapproved of the president. And the fact Nebraska is a toss-up because doesn't approve or disapprove of the president. The Democratic Party now has 428 electoral votes. Donald Trump has 105. That's not a good look whatsoever. Texas, Arizona, Utah, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Iowa, Missouri, Maine 2nd District. These are all flips from 2016 based off the data. And the fact that Kansas, North Dakota, Montana, Indiana, and Alaska are all lean states that are on edge to possibly flip towards the Democratic Party based off approval ratings, not a good sign either. Right now, Kansas, +1. Nebraska, no characterization. Alaska, +1. Montana, +1. Not a good look. So that wraps up today's video. Thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I will see you all tomorrow.